Miles Morales is in the razor-sharp clutches of a brand new villain calling herself Starling. What'll happen next? Well, let's hop into the pages of Miles Morales Spider-Man issue number 5 and number 6 and find out for ourselves, shall we? Alrighty then, so as we join the comic, it's an average day in Brooklyn. Miles and Gank are getting themselves patty sandwiches over at the Jamaican deli, complete with pepperoni, cheese, and hot sauce on coconut bread. Man, you can do that? I thought a Jamaican patty was just a meal in and of itself. Apparently I need to spend more time in New York. What makes this even funnier is Saladin Amid said on Twitter, this is a real order he heard someone get one time. Now while they're out on the town, Gank has some rather harsh news to give Miles, and that is he's not sure he can keep making his web fluid at this rate. He's been taking material from the school labs, and they're gonna start locking it up soon unless they get more careful. This conversation ends up having to get benched as a gang war has broken out in Miles' own backyard. You see, the local yellow-clad gang, the Latin Kings, the Golden Lords, are shooting it out with a bunch of out-of-towners. And unless Spider-Man can step on in and stop this, a lot of innocent people are going to get caught in the crossfire. As we eventually discover after the dust settles, the suit-wearing baddies work for Tombstone, who, fed up with just ruling over Harlem, has decided to expand outward. And Miles is definitely going to go have himself a talk with Lonnie Lincoln, but first comes class in making web fluid, which almost gets hijacked by a new character introduced this issue named Sean. Sean is malicious as he is metrosexual and apparently has a long history of bullying poor Gank. Sean also just so happens to be a massive suck-up to Mr. Drutcher, the vice principal who wants to nab Miles for skipping school all those times to go and be Spider-Man. Why, he even dropped a dime on him to Miles' dad, even though he had no actual proof of his truancy. These panels are great too, as we see both Miles and his dad have matching Star Wars mugs. Miles' dad is still supportive of his son being Spider-Man, but only on the grounds that his school life doesn't suffer. Now later that night, Miles ends up coming upon another gang war. This time, Tombstone's guys are taking it to a local Jamaican posse. The gangsters are rolling deep this time too. Tombstone sent his own personal lieutenant with his own fire-spitting power armor. Not that it isn't anything Miles can't handle. Obviously, Tombstone's goons don't want to give up their boss's location, but Miles gets to show just how creative he is by stealing their phones and using it to trace their last location. If I was him, I'd also delete their apps and leak their dick pics. That would show them that crime doesn't pay. Now, Spider-Man manages to get to Tombstone's safe house, or safe junkyard as the case may be, at just the right time, as his people are unrolling a bunch of brand new high-tech military weapons to use in their upcoming gang wars. Miles, using his cloaking ability and Venom Blast, makes quick work of the rank-and-file goons, but as he quickly discovers, he's not the only one here. A bunch of the goons actually came pre-beaten up, and that's because new avian-themed character Starling is ready to make the scene, and Miles is smitten with her almost instantly. Aw, that's adorable. It's his first femme fatale meeting. Our kiddo Miles, he's just growing up so fast, I tell ya. Starling, though, as the next issue begins, is a lot less taken with our hero, though. In fact, she jumps to the conclusion that he must be one of Tombstone's costumed helpers and attacks him right away. It's made very clear that while Starling may not be a villain per se, she's not exactly a soft-hearted hero like Miles. She beat up those goons really bad. Some are never gonna walk again, and some got their faces ripped clean off. She is, however, not a killer, though, as Miles goes out of his way to put his own neck on the line several times to prove to her that he isn't her enemy. It seems that Starling has a personal vendetta against Tombstone. As we'll discover throughout the course of this issue, it would seem that Lonnie Lincoln killed her best friend, and now she's out for revenge, even coming all the way to New York from Detroit. And reluctantly, the two decide to join forces. Now, while Miles might be making a lot of progress in his superhero life, his personal life continues to take a bunch of hits, mainly the fact that he's been ignoring his girlfriend Barbara this whole time. That's not to say the cracks weren't always forming in their relationship. Barbara's not dumb. She knows Miles is hiding some kind of double life from her, and if he's not willing to talk about it, then maybe they shouldn't be in a relationship, period. Also, you notice Miles is wearing a Captain Marvel shirt in this panel? He's got to be pretty forgiving considering that Carol went out of her way to try and lock him up for a crime he didn't commit not that long ago, or maybe he just likes her movie, who knows. Now, with Starling's help, Miles is able to track Tombstone back to his penthouse fortress, where it would seem him and all of his henchmen are ready to make trails in their helicopter. Starling rushes in first, letting her anger get the best of her, and before she knows it, she's pinned down by a bunch of heavy artillery fire, which means Miles has to play the big hero. Tombstone is tough, but not so tough he won't be brought down by a venom blast. For a second there, it looks like everything's going to be hunky-dory before the bloodlust once again takes Starling, who wants to drop Tombstone from quite the altitude. This means Miles went all the way from trying to stop Tombstone to trying to save Tombstone from being street pizza. He figures the only way to do that is to actually literally web himself up to Lonnie Lincoln. So essentially, if he dies, then Miles dies as well, and because Starling is slowly but surely growing to like our hero, she ends up saving everybody and leaving Tombstone for the police. Though very begrudgingly. Now you're probably wondering to yourself, hey, you got a lot of vulture-looking tech, and that is because, as we discover, Starling's real name is actually Tiana Toombs. She is the granddaughter of the original Vulture, and Adrian, apparently during his time lying low in Detroit, built her a costume and taught her how to fly. Now, despite all the massive red flags about his newest crush, Miles still very much wants to keep teaming up with her, but even though after Tiana goes out of her way to spill her guts and origin story to Miles, he still very much wants to keep his secret identity to himself, which in turn kind of offends her, and once again means he's keeping secrets, and once again means he strikes out with another girl. Ooh. The night's not a total bust, though. Before the fight with Tombstone broke out, Miles was sure to grab a bunch of files from the dude's desk, stuff he doesn't quite understand, but stuff that could be very important when it comes to cracking down on crime in New York. But to do that, Miles is going to need someone on the inside, and for that, he opts to go to his Uncle Aaron as the comic winds down. And so that was Miles Morales Spider-Man issue number 5 and number 6, everybody, and ultimately this was a fun, if familiar, 2-pack of little stories here. Seeing our hero Spider-Man try to balance his personal life, his love life, and his superhero life, and not exactly doing a great job of it, is classic fare. So is a hero crushing on a femme fatale who may actually be more trouble than they're worth. And while I certainly feel like I've seen these scenarios many times before as a lifelong comic fan, I also know every comic is somebody's first, and it's gonna feel new to someone else. Ultimately, though, this is a very good version of those types of stories. I would give this one a 7 out of 10 altogether.
Hey there everyone, it's your old pal Cape Joel again. I want to thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed what you saw, and if you did, why not take a closer look at some of these other videos I have available from the channel. Then you can follow me on Twitter and Facebook at Cape Joel, so you're always up to speed on what I'm doing next. And hey, if you're in a supportive mood, why not check out my Patreon page? Patrons get exclusive access to videos and content before anyone else, and you can do so for as little as $1 a month. I would really appreciate it, and with that, I will be sure to be back again next time with even more great comic content that smacks of greatness. Bye-bye, everyone.